Now, new reports found 8 Syrian migrants that crossed into Europe had the same papers as those found on the Paris suicide bombers. Shocking information.
It is shocking, Elizabeth, and it's putting pressure on the White House to stop plans to bring thousands of Syrian refugees into the United States. 10,000 in all is the president's plan.
Here with us now, one of the 6 senators who signed a letter to President Obama to re-examine his policies on bringing Syrian refugees here, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, who actually fights these wars and now is fighting for the country in Washington as a senator from her state. Senator, well, for those who say that we lose our soul, like our governor here in New York, if we push back on these refugees, what's your answer to them?
Well, I think we need a thorough vetting process, and so I have joined a number of other senators in expressing to the administration that we need to make sure that we are 100% certain that anyone that comes into this country has been thoroughly vetted. With the process and what we have seen overseas, I am not so certain that we can do that. So I am proposing that we take a pause in bringing Syrian refugees into the country.
Okay, so Senator, when you say that, though, and on the heels of the president's remarks, President Obama saying this talk about stopping any refugees coming to our land must stop. Basically, people saying you're a bigot if you're classifying these people and not letting them in. How long of a pause are you proposing, and what is the risk, Senator, specifically the risk if we do not employ that pause in allowing refugees right now from this region to enter our borders?
Well, this is not unprecedented. This was done after 9/11, and we have seen a very similar circumstance in France. So a pause could be indefinite. I know we will be meeting on this over the course of the next several days, talking about the refugee crisis, talking about what we need to do to ensure Americans are safe. That is my first priority. I have served in that region as a company commander in Kuwait and Iraq. I understand the volatility there, but we have to understand the reason we have these refugees is because of the failed policy in the Middle East. We have a president that doesn't have a clearly communicated strategy, comprehensive strategy. That's why we have this crisis, but we must keep Americans safe.
Sure. Senator, I was watching one of the other channels yesterday, and I saw a Democrat who was defending the including and continuing these refugees to come here in the United States because, you know, this is a country that takes hundreds of thousands of refugees, or rather close to 100,000 refugees each and every year. And what they said was the screening process is really rigorous. And we're going to put up a little detail about what goes through. It is classified, but we do understand there are multiple security checks. There's an in-person interview with somebody from the Department of Homeland Security. They do a medical screening test, a cultural orientation class as well. But ultimately, I think what worry a lot of people, Senator, is the fact that we have already heard from ISIS they're going to try to use this particular refugee crisis to import more terrorists into Western nations, and we certainly would qualify.
That is correct, Steve. And again, we have to push back very hard on this, making sure that we are protecting Americans. I understand we have a very thorough vetting process with the information that we can get our hands on. But when you have a country such as Syria that is not willing to provide the background documents, it is very hard to ensure that they are properly vetted.
Senator, what Democrats also agree with you and will stand by you with this? We know there was a push by the Speaker yesterday. What about in the Senate?
I think we will have a number of Democrats, and we will continue working with our colleagues to make sure they understand the significance of protecting American lives. Again, that has to be our first priority.
Is that are they concerned about pushback from the White House? If they told you privately they like to support you and agree with you, but they're afraid of coming public?
There are a number that would agree with us privately. We will have to see what implications pressure from the White House brings to our friends across the aisle. But again, they need to understand that all of our citizens could be at risk if we're not properly vetting these refugees.
Senator, why would the president not echo your sentiments in saying that? Why would the person in the highest position in charge of keeping our nation the most safe, at the very least, accept a pause in this time with the good-hearted nature that, of course, as a nation, we want to accept refugees because they're not all bad. But the chance that any number of them could harm our own citizens. Why would our president not share your sentiments?
Well, I would hope that our president would share these sentiments, that Americans come first. We are a welcoming nation, but when we put our own lives at risk and on our homeland, that's where we differ. And for the president to take a pause, he would then be admitting that he has failed in the Middle East. He has not destroyed ISIS, and that's why we have this refugee crisis. So again, we need a president that will stand up and clearly communicate a strategy which will destroy ISIS, not degrade it, not contain it, but destroy it.
Wow. Senator Joni Ernst, always great to hear from you. Hopefully we get a bipartisan push towards what's best for America and what's best for our country's safety as we see what's happening in Paris this morning.
Thank you for your service.
I hope so as well.